So, have you guys heard of mobile games?
Hold the elevator! Ow! 20 million power?
Believe it or not, there was a time where mobile games had a reputation other than being blatant cash grabs of very questionable marketing. You see, there was an age where your cousin would ask you if you had games on your phone, for the phone had no games. But it was until game developers realized that, hey, all the kids got their newfangled iPhones, if you put games on the App Store, it will have a huge audience. And so they did just that, and we got bangers like Angry Birds, Plants vs. Zombies, Cut the Rope, etc. The mobile game market ended up being a huge one due to its accessibility, and this got the attention of a small indie game company. I think they're called Nintendo. It made perfect sense for the company who made mostly family-friendly, therefore highly accessible, games for an already highly accessible platform. Nintendo would make their mark on the mobile game space by creating Super Mario Run, which we don't really have time to talk about that game here, but in short, when Miyamoto saw the sales, he reportedly jumped for joy and giggled. So obviously there is a lot of potential for more Nintendo mobile games. And what better step to take than to bring in the most popular Nintendo series, Mario Kart. I'm pretty confident I don't need to give an introduction to Mario Kart. If someone asked me what Mario Kart is, I would assume they're a skinwalker. The reason why this series is so well known is because there has always been one on every Nintendo console since the Super Nintendo, so gamers of all ages would have had the chance to play at least one. Me, for example, it was Mario Kart Double Dash, which, from my memory, I think was the first game I ever played. I didn't technically play it, I had to be the backseat character while my older siblings who actually had coherent thoughts would steer. It's also one of the most fun series of games, period. Just a few rounds with some friends or family will convince you that. And I have a blast with almost every entry in the series. So when a new Mario Kart game was announced for mobile devices, you bet I was excited. And so were other Mario Kart fans, because although Mario Kart 8 Deluxe came out recently, we didn't have an actual new game in 5 years. And you know just how much they starve us Mario fans. And this game even appealed outside of those who grew up with the series, since I can assume a lot more people own a phone than a Nintendo console. It was honestly genius marketing. Mario Kart on the phone is the money printing machine. And so on September 25th, 2019, Mario Kart Tour was released on iOS, Android, the other ones I don't remember. Everyone got it for the App Store, they booted it up, and... oh boy.
They give us this game, and it's like, it's everything we hate about bad, overly monetized, free-to-play mobile games.
It comes with a lot of roadblocks and isn't anywhere near as fun to control as the console games. And for me, it just made me want to play Mario Kart 8 again. I disliked Mario Kart Tour.
Once you get used to the controls, it can be fun, but it has all the nasty mobile game elements that I'm not a fan of, like loot boxes and gacha mechanics.
They've decided, hey, let's just get as much money as we possibly can from misled consumers.
It's alright. I had better at the school cafeteria.
It had mixed reactions, to say the least. Although the majority seemed to be positive given the App Store ratings, the negativity was a lot more vocal. Tour included some controversial features at launch. Controls that were hard to get a grasp on, spicy microtransactions, multiplayer not being available yet, and the gacha, which was gambling for game items. The latter and microtransactions were common icks that people had for mobile games, which was led to them as a whole having a bad reputation. So reasonably, they were not happy seeing this in the beloved Mario Kart. Because of this, many Mario Kart fans tapped out within the first couple of weeks, as this was not what they were hoping for. Well, I guess that's the end of it, right? It was released, some liked it, some really didn't. There's really nothing left to talk about. Wait a minute, this means I can do the end of video early joke that every YouTuber does. In actuality, Mario Kart Tour is a lot more complex than it looks. Over time, they made things better, made things worse. The remainder of the player base really started to get invested due to its surprisingly in-depth mechanics, and eventually it led to the creation of a future Mario Kart project. Mario Kart Tour is actually the most complicated and layered game in the series, which I know is weird to say for the mobile game, and the reason why I never gave my opinion on this game is that I'm not sure what I think. Because of its complexity, it's full of stuff that I really like, but also stuff I really, really don't. So I can't decide as a whole package if it's good or not. And that's why I wanted to make this video, because most discussions I've seen online really only analyze at face value, so I really want to go in depth and talk about this game's mechanics, and review the history and how it changed over time. Hopefully by the end of this video I can have a solid stance on this game, and I can educate some of you who may not be too familiar with this game. First off, I think we should talk about why this game is called Mario Kart Tour. You see, MKT, which is what I'll be abbreviating it to sometimes, is a live service game that gets updated constantly. Every 2 weeks there is a new tour, which adds new tracks, characters, vehicles, and so on, and the racetracks featured are shuffled around. As traditional Mario Kart fashion, there's a handful of cups you can race on. This time though, there are 3 tracks and a challenge at the end, which is like a mission from Mario Kart DS. And I was really excited to see this return, being a Mario Kart DS stan. These courses are mostly tracks from previous games, but every now and then there will be a new track that's based off a real-world city. This was the big advertiser for MKT, with the whole idea that you would be racing at familiar big city locations like New York and Paris. Not Detroit. Sorry. I'm a bit mixed on the premise because, on one hand, I appreciate that it's a new take on Mario Kart tracks, and it is pretty charming to be driving around these landmarks you may be recognizing. You could even be like, oh my god, I was there! On the other hand, what? It's really only an issue if you consider the world building and the tie-ins of the real world to the Mario world. We've had parodies of real world locations like New Donk City, but here, it's literally New York. I find that off-putting, especially considering the implications, like the Berlin Wall in Berlin Byways. Do you guys think Wario was on the west side or the east? Also, just Los Angeles existing in the Mario world is diminishing. But a more serious issue I have with these city tracks is I don't think they took full advantage of this idea as much as they could. Occasionally, they do translate landmarks and the course elements pretty well in some cases, like Singapore's rooftop pool and the Madrid Futbol Estadio. That's right, I know some Spanish, I've seen Puss in Boots. But most of the time, these landmarks are just there. The Eiffel Tower, for instance, you just drive under it, and it would have been cool if you could glide over the top or through that middle section. London has the Big Ben. Oh, you didn't notice it? Yeah, it's just over there, in the distance. It's not really part of the course because then there wouldn't be any room for the road. That's the big issue I have with the city track designs. Most of the time, you just drive on the city streets, which is... yeah, it's pretty boring. There really should have been more changes in elevation and overall scenery. If you're not a fan of the city tracks, then don't worry, because they don't appear in tours as often as you would think. Lots of tours don't even feature one and emphasize the retro tracks, and there are a lot of them in MKT, more than there is in the Booster Course Pass. On top of that is a new spin on course design. Each track actually has different variants, a trick variant, which adds a bunch of ramps and sometimes alternate roads, reverse, which is exactly what it sounds like, and reverse/trick, which is a mixture of both. Now I think these are really cool because it opens up opportunities to completely change the routing of a track that we're familiar with. So on top of the already huge selection, the count quadruples because of the variations, so this game is kind of like the Smash Ultimate of Mario Kart tracks in that regard. But sadly there's still no Poke Floats. Anyways, we all know how Mario Kart works. You want to get first, use items wisely, and hope to god you don't lose from horrible luck. It's simple. Well, as you will learn throughout this video, MKT is anything but simple. Getting first isn't enough because now there is a scoring system. The score is based on the current stats of your loadout. You can give each of your drivers, karts, and glider base points, and can add on to that based on your performance in the race. Hitting other racers with items, drifting, jumping off ramps, collecting coins, etc. Really anything you would do in a Mario Kart race that's good would add points. But it's not as simple as just doing things, because there is also a combo meter. If you do actions in succession, your combo will increase and you'll get even more points. But if you go too long without doing anything, you will lose your combo. Now, I want to first say that I really like combo mechanics in games. It adds a sense of urgency and motivates replayability to see if you can get a higher streak, and has the player teach themselves to get better at the game. I like it so much, I'm going to explain why Mario Kart should not have a combo meter. To prove my point, I shall acquire a scholarly source. Pizza Tower. There is a reason why this indie game took over 2023. The game may be pretty short, but what made the gameplay so replayable and addicting is the notorious combo mechanic. Works pretty similar to MKT. Collect stuff and murder people, or your combo is gonna drop and you will realize that there is no worse feeling than letting that happen. So why does it work here, but not in Mario Kart? Well, in Mario Kart, we've all had horror stories of doing so well, finish line in sight, and then you just get mobbed by a bunch of items, you'll get violated so hard, you'll be in 13th place. So imagine if the whole time you had a combo rolling, and then just dropped due to being stunned by an item. Just a single red shell could have that combo drop. and you had no agency over that because the item box couldn't let you defend yourself. There's also a whole frenzy mechanic that we'll get to later, but that also plays a huge role in gathering points and are also luck-based. In Pisa Tower, meanwhile, keeping your combo solely relies on your skill, routing, and memory. As far as I'm concerned, there was no element of luck in keeping that combo running. So, if it drops, it is completely your fault, which is why it hurts so much. But you only have yourself to blame there, at least it wasn't the game that just decided to end your run due to dumb luck. So that's my big issue with Mario Kart Tour's core gameplay mechanic, where it integrates a skill meter in a very luck-reliant game. So, one of the core mechanics is scuffed, huh? Yeah, that's not looking good for you so far, Michael Kart Tours. What good does a high score do anyways? Well, that's where MKT's competitive aspects come in. Every week, one of the cups will be a ranked cup, and your combined scores from each of the courses in that cup will be matched up with 19 other players around the world. By the end of the week, better rewards will be given to players with the higher scores among their competition, and you'll move up or down a tier depending on your placement. Tiers allow access to purchase more items, but they're mostly a status symbol and for the algorithm to match players of similar skill level. And then there's also All Cup ranking, where the whole player base competes to have the highest score among all of the cups. And the top 1,000 players get a special badge for their profile. I don't know about you, but that seems pretty lame for spending hours and hours trying to get the best score on every racetrack for a tacky PNG. It's just a trophy with a character head on it, so it doesn't even look cool either. The rank cups and all cup ranked are good alternatives to competitive play when multiplayer isn't out yet. It also helps the players stay engaged instead of just logging in, do a race or two, log out, log into League of Legends, hate your life. But I did mention the whole issue with a score-based Mario Kart race. But strategy and skill still play a role by racing optimally and selecting the right characters. Rank cups can be mentally draining trying to get a good score and having to keep resetting and resetting because of that one red shell. The character card and glider you choose plays a huge role in scoring points. Each one has their favorite courses where characters will give you 3 item slots, and carts and gliders give score multipliers. So each course you're going to want to play as whatever is on the top shelf. Yeah, sorry, no Funky Kong Flame Runner 24/7. And the Flame Runner isn't even in this game, so cry. And the importance of having 3 item slots is that if you get 3 of the same item, you'll enter a frenzy, where you can rain absolute hellfire on everyone. Tap the screen over and over and you can summon infinite items until your frenzy runs out. Another cool concept, but it just makes getting a higher score more RNG reliant than it already was. You can increase the chance of frenzies by leveling up your characters with these tickets. I like the level system a lot. If you save up enough, you can make your favorite character an absolute menace to society. And it's really satisfying to check out a new course to find out a character you invested a lot into is favored. And about the character roster, it is by far the best in the series. Almost every tour adds at least one and eventually adds up to a shit ton. This includes fans' favorites, desired newcomers, and a ton of alternate costumes. I already made a video reviewing every single costume, so I won't go into detail here, but I'll say, this is my favorite part of the whole game. This part is purely creatively driven, and I love seeing what they would come up with next. Special items are back too, where characters will have an item specific to them. There's also the Mario Kart with the most items. We got the return of the beloved Giant Banana and Bowser Shell from Double Dash, alongside a bunch of new ones like the Cat Bell, Coin Box, and even the Capsule from Dr. Mario. The creativity doesn't stop at the characters either. The carts and gliders also have some really creative designs, like the record setter keeps track of how long you've been gliding, the B-Dasher Mark II series is just, oh, I'm about to blow, and the Paddy Wagon.
Feast your eyes, Patrick.
So yeah, I would say the drivers, carts, and gliders are easily the best part about this game. It allows developers to really show off their creativity and add a lot of charm to this game. But you might be wondering how you're supposed to get all of these. Well, you can buy them at the daily select shop of coins, you can complete certain challenges, but the most prominent source is the pipe. The pipe is the most infamous part of Mario Kart Tour. This is what caused so many players to leave, and it is just the symbol of this game's evil side. Now, some of you might be confused. I mean, it's just a Mario pipe. You go up and down them all the time in Maurice's brother. Well, in the context of this game, you can pay in-game currency to launch the pipe, and out comes a random driver, cart, or glider, and you won't know what you'll get until you receive it. Yes, this is indeed a gacha mechanic. Also known as loot boxes, the player pays up to get a random item. It could be your hopes and dreams, or it could be Lemmy Koopa. Sounds like gambling, doesn't it? Well, that's because it is. On the bright side, it's not exactly bottomless. Each pipe has 100 contents in it, so it'll eventually be dried out. But you can also reset the pipe and restore its contents, so it doesn't have to be endless if you want. You might also need a straitjacket. Pipes will also have spotlight drivers, carts, and gliders, which you are guaranteed to get before you reach the bottom. Items are also classified as normal, super, or high-end. Normals are the most common in pipes, but don't have that many favorite courses, while high-ends can have a lot of favorite courses, but are the most rare in pipes. Damn, imagine if we had a rarity class in the real world. I'd be a high-end in this world of normals. I can acknowledge that there were some restraints of the gacha's implementation, but 100 pipe pulls is still brutal, and it's worse getting into what these pipe pulls cost. You will have to cough up some rubies, MKT's in-game currency. One pull costs 5 rubies, but if you save up enough, you can pull 10 at once for 45 rubies, which is a bit cheaper than doing 10 individual pulls. So you'll need a whopping 450 rubies to drain the entire pipe, or 500 if you're doing single pulls. This brings up a big problem in determining a solid value that items hold to the player. Let's just say you're gonna get Pauline in the New York pipe. She's a spotlight driver, so you will get her eventually, whether that be immediately or at the very end. The issue is that obtaining Pauline will cost them anywhere between 5 and 450 rubies. That is just an atrocious price range. That's like, okay, imagine if you wanted to order a pizza and the guy on the phone is like, okay, sir, that will be somewhere between $5 and $100, but we won't decide until the pizza arrives at the door. Good night and good luck.
Huh?
There's no way to know ahead of time how much rubies you have to throw in, so unless if you win the gamble, it discourages the player to spend the amount of rubies that they believe is justified. Because if it ends up being on the higher side, you'll start to question if that was even worth it. It's worse if you spend like 300 rubies and then you just get a bunch of shit. Like, cool, I spent a lot of rubies to get that yellow taxi, but instead I got the biddy buggy 8 times. Yeah! I learned it the hard way, but that's why I started to go into pipes always with at least 450. So worst case scenario, I at least got what I wanted. You can't really avoid the gacha pipe where your progression in unlocking stuff is going to be slow as hell. And can I just say, practically forcing sugar-coated gambling toward a family-friendly audience, which includes children, is kinda fucked. I'd expect this sort of sketchy behavior from like EA or Activision, not from Nintendo. I'm well aware of the absurd shit that the legal team has done over the years, but Nintendo the corporation and Nintendo the game studio are their own entities to me. Pretty much all Nintendo games up to this point have been pretty ethically well designed. Never implemented anything morally gray, but of course, the one time I defend you, you spit in my face. Thanks Nintendo, I love you. But you might be thinking, it's just rubies, that's fake currency. There's no real world consequence. I forgot to tell you how one acquires these rubies. You can get rubies by just logging in, completing challenges, or from gifts by doing well enough in racing. But you get them at a snail's pace, you only get a bit over 100 rubies per tour, and you might not be able to afford pulling for all the items you wanted. There is a faster way to get rubies. Microtransactions, or when games have you pay real money for chunks of content as opposed to just paying for the full game up front. So in theory, one could spend real money on the gacha pipes by paying for more rubies. Bro, this is literally gambling. Gambling that is open to children who may or may not develop addictions and ruin their lives. Wow, a Mario Kart game that endangers children. You'll love to see it. Well, at least the prices aren't complete bullshit. Alright, let's just look at these purchase options one by one. So first you got 4 rubies for $2. Alright, so you can't do shit with 4 rubies. 4 rubies can't get you anything, so like, who would do this? Next is 14 rubies for $6, which is, I think it's better. Yeah, it's like 2 rubies better than the previous option. Again, it's just short of another pull, so like, why specifically 14? Like, what are these numbers? Like 29, 61. These are so weird numbers. I don't understand. Alright, then you got $13 for almost 6 pipe pulls. And then finally, you can do a 10 pull with 27 bucks. A single 10 pull and a few single pulls for $27. Also, what is with this bonus thing? There's no bonus, that's just the stuff that you get always. Are they trying to make it look like it's a deal? Like, oh, what a steal. What is going on here? And then $50 for 122 rubies. That is a bit short of 30 pulls. That's not even a full... That's not even enough rubies to empty the entire pipe. That's just like, you can get a good third of it down for 50 rubies. And, oh my god. So there's $70. You can pay $70 for 170 rubies. What on earth? Okay, so if we do the math, I'm trying to think. So if you purely use money to purchase rubies in order to launch all of the items in a pipe, all 100 items, you're gonna need roughly $220. Each pipe is worth $220 according to this game. That's just awful. That is atrocious. Please, whatever you do, do not purchase these. Why the hell was this ever considered okay? The microtransactions don't stop there. There are also bundles you can purchase, and I mean, it's better. For $40, you can get 20 pipe pulls worth of rubies, which is dumb, but the selling point is the high-end items, which I can kind of see the value there. It's better than potentially spending over $100 for a spotlight item in a pipe. It's still overpriced. I would change the $40 packs to 20, and then the 20 to 10. Still a bit much, but it's reasonable for a microtransaction. They wouldn't want to hand these out like candy. And then there is the Gold Pass, which gives you access to a lot more gifts like rubies, coins, characters, and so on. That's cool. It's $5 per month.
$5 a month!
Now, call me crazy, insane, fucking bonkers for suggesting this idea. But how about the Gold Pass was instead given to players that are good at the game? Like, let's just say you get the pass after enough playtime, or if you're a high enough tier. That way you can get more stuff by playing better. You know, rewarding the player for developing skills? Game Design 101? Nah. Instead, let's just reward the player who gives us more of those sweet, sweet George Washingtons. Is this a game or a fucking country club? Alright, so that's pretty much the basis of Mario Kart Tour and all of its mechanics. And from my thoughts so far, overall you can conclude that although it shows its creative potential at times, it's gatekept by dysfunctional and even unethical game mechanics. So yeah, game bad and video, right? Well, believe it or not, we've only scratched the surface. First off, I can't conclude that the game is an objective dumpster fire because it really isn't. Why else would there have been so many people who stuck around? Why did I play this game regularly for 4 years despite my many problems with it so far? Oh, I forgot to mention I played this game regularly for 4 years. Before you check me into a mental institution, can I at least explain myself? Yes, the gameplay can be frustrating, and the gacha can screw you over big time. But in a weird way, that's what makes the game fun? The fact that the odds are weighed against you so much makes winning so satisfying. I never felt more like a god when the item I wanted from a pipe was the very first thing that came out. I felt like I could go into shark-infested waters with a paper cut. The same goes for when you spend an hour playing a course over and over again and finally get that incredible score. Back to Pizza Tower. Getting P rank is no easy task, but it's the challenge that makes players want to get it so bad. You can actually have fun with this game as long as you follow my rules. My Roderick rules. Roderick rule number 1. Free to play. If you don't spend any money on any rubies or bundles, you'll be experiencing most of the game's content for free. This does mean you'll be unlocking drivers, carts, and gliders very slowly, but just focus on getting the ones that work the most for you instead of trying to get everything and you'll be fine. Number 2. Please moderate your pipe holes. Always come in with 450 rubies so that no matter what, you'll get what you wanted. If you're going in with less, accept the chance that you may lose against the odds. And do not resort to buying more rubies. Gambling can be fun in moderation. If not, then next thing you know you'll be owing your legs to men in suits. And number 3, don't get too competitive. You're not going to win every ranked cup, that's just how it is, and I would avoid all cup ranking entirely. You will not stand a chance unless you have max stats on pretty much every track. Even if you did, remember you're doing all that for a congratulatory sticker. If you're feeling at least semi-confident that your loadouts can get you to win ranked, here's a big tip. Wait until near the end of the ranked week so your opponents barely have any time to one-up you. Some people see this as scummy and unfair to your opponents, and I get that, but as harsh as it sounds, tough. It's every man for themselves, you're not their friends. Besides, these are random ass people and everyone's pretty much anonymous, you're not gonna bump into them IRL. Overall, I find MKT to be fun as long as you go in casually and prepare for the worst. That's just how I approach this game, there's no shame toward the more dedicated players. And also, it's still Mario Kart, which at its core is a really fun game. But the reason why we stuck around for this game is the fact that there is so much content. Every 2 weeks would be a new tour, meaning new tracks, new characters, new karts and gliders. And occasionally there would be updates and new features that made the game today far from how it was at launch. And you know, I want to talk about my experience with this game throughout its first 4 years until I eventually dropped it. And I also want to discuss some of the community aspects of the game, so yeah, I've got a lot more to say because I want to do this game justice and want to make sure it's reviewed in its entirety. I've seen lots of opinions on Mario Kart Tour that are very negative and don't acknowledge the positives, and I've also seen people that don't acknowledge its faults and defend the game to death. So let's dive into the game's history and see if the game is better today than it was at launch. When it came to the game's content, we were eating pretty well during Mario Kart Tour's first few months in 2019. You got some decent city tracks, New York Minute is kind of boring but it looks nice, Tokyo Blur is even more boring and doesn't look nice, Paris Promenade was nothing special either but it had the best atmosphere so far, and London Loop was British.
Proper British dishes, part 35. Pretzels on fucking fire.
And since the game only just got started, it means there's a lot of room for new courses and characters. We got a mix of popular courses like Waluigi Pinball and 3DS Rainbow Road, and some underrated choices like Choco Island and Rock Mountain from Mario Kart 7. Actually, there are so many Mario Kart 7 tracks in Tour. I bet it's because the look and feel of the 3DS tracks are the easiest to translate to Tour's engine. The character additions were obvious choices, but still exciting to see. Pauline makes her debut in the Mario Kart series, which is awesome, and they added a bunch of returning characters like Wario, Waluigi, Rosalina, King Boo, Luigi. You heard that right? They added Luigi? One of the Mario brothers wasn't a character at launch? They had to make room for one of the Koopalings, you know? Who knows, maybe he just got stuck in traffic.
Miami's daily traffic.
I thought they ended the year on a high note with the New Year's tour. With that tour's pipes, you had the chance to get some of the characters from earlier pipes that year, so you get another shot if you missed the character's debut. Now, you're not guaranteed to get them this time since they aren't in the spotlight, but it's better than nothing. Other than a few odd choices, Tour was flourishing with content. Really, most of the issues with the game came from the mechanics, which is pretty bad saying it out loud. And you know, that's why I stuck around, because the courses and new characters were interesting enough for me to live with its glaring flaws. However, at the start of 2020, there would be a flaw that I and many players just could not look past, because it was one of the foulest things the developers ever did with this game. May I bring your attention to the Ice Tour incident? That's the dumbest shit I've ever said. So what was so bad about the Ice Tour? At first glance, it doesn't look half bad. I mean, we got a cute Peach costume from Odyssey, and we got Penguin Luigi, and hey, look at that! It's Frap Snowland, a very nostalgic course from Mario Kart 64. This actually seems like it'll be fun. Well, let's look at the Ranked Cup, where players will be competing with each other to get higher scores. The course that sticks out is Vanilla Lake 1R, which only has one driver on the top shelf, being Ice Mario, who can activate frenzies. Having 3 item slots is important, so players who want to win ranked will have to get Ice Mario. I don't see him as a spotlight in any of these pipes, so how are you supposed to get this guy? There's no way, right? There's no way they paywalled the only top driver for one of the ranked tracks for $40, no less. Yeah, they totally did. Jesus Christ. At this moment, This is arguably not even a game anymore. Games are supposed to reward you for your reflexes, strategic skills, luck, and so on. Rewarding skills is, again, Game 101. So tell me, what skills are being tested when you ask the player to cough up 40 bucks in order to have a significant advantage in competitive play? This is somehow worse than having to gamble for the advantage, because then you didn't have to spend money. If you're lucky or saved up enough, those who are free to play could get these items. But here, you have to spend money for the advantage. They're just rewarding players who have deeper pockets. Again, this is not a game, it's those fuck-ass machines from the Steeches. The insulting part is Ice Mario didn't even end up being that good anyways, so you can't argue that he's worth $40 in the long run. The whole gacha, microtransactions, and gold passes were already pretty sketchy, but this was a whole new level of dirt. It's like if I compliment this game for too long, they'll pull out some nasty shit to balance things out. Now, I call this an incident rather than a screw-up or a cringe moment because this had quite the repercussions. Players, who at this point may be getting tired of the game's repetitive nature, were furious. A wave of negative reviews dropped on the App Store, subscriptions were cancelled. This was the last straw for a lot of players. MKT was at the lowest point it ever had been, and it felt like this game was going to die when it just got born. The damage was enough to get the attention of the developers, and would try to make up for it hoping that the game wouldn't die completely. First off, they would compensate by giving players 5 rubies for the next couple of tours. Gee, thanks. Yippee. And then they would release the Vancouver tour where we got the best city track so far, featuring Rosalina in a really cool Aurora-themed dress and Wario's first alternate costume. Dang it, I was trying to be sarcastic in this segment, but that's actually really cool. Vancouver Velocity looks amazing, and there's a lot more variety in settings and landmarks. You go up the ski lift and glide down the city, along with a hockey stadium and just the visuals being pure eye candy. After that was the Mario Brothers tour to celebrate Mario Day, and we got Mario and Luigi in their original color scheme. That's cool enough. I suppose I'll try my luck at the pipes. Hold up, something looks odd about the pipe. Wait, does that say 50?
No, this can't be. I must be dreaming. Oh my god!
That's right. In this tour, they changed the pipes from having 100 contents in them to 50. This means that you only need to save up 225 rubies for a guaranteed shot at spotlight items, and the odds are now doubled. This meant less gacha anxiety and overall a massive improvement to the game. I mean, yeah, it's still gacha, but at least it's a lot less pay to win now that the bar is lowered. Mobile game developers, listening to feedback. I couldn't believe it either. Now, it seemed like this was just a one-time thing to celebrate Mario Day, but this carried on to the next tour, Baby Rosalina Tour, which is a very lame theme, but the doubled odds in the pipes are still here, so I guess it's fine. I still don't like you though. And in addition, you can now fire the pipe a few times by doing decently well in the races, rewarding the player for skill and progression. Oh my god, they finally took their Game Design 101 class! How was it, by the way? Did you have the same professor as I did? I was surprised by how quickly things turned around. It really painted a good picture of things to come. And you might be wondering, why did I leave this game around this point? Well, this phase might be considered as a we're so back moment, and we all know what comes after that. Next up was the Hammer Brothers tour. Hammer Bro and his quirky cousins were all getting added to Mario Kart for the first time, and I was excited because I love Hammer Bro, he's one of my favorite Mario enemies. And now that the pipes are only half as deep, I shouldn't have a problem getting all of them.
No, 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 no!
So, only 3 tours in with the 50 item pipes, they changed it back to 100. Cool. Great. Awesome. We had a good thing going, but you just had to revert back to the Dark Ages. Don't blame them, poor defenseless indie game company Nintendo needs their money. What made this even more insulting for me personally is the fact they did this on the tour with the character that I really wanted to get. Now confident I could get him due to the more shallow pipes, I was pretty upset that there could be a lot I had to give up, but I decided to go on anyways. I'll do it for him. The amount of rubies I had gave me a 90% chance of getting Hammer Bro. I couldn't get any more rubies for free at the moment, but like, come on, 90%. There's no way I'm not gonna get him. I didn't get him. If you haven't played MKT before, let me just tell you, there is no worse feeling than leaving a pipe empty-handed after spending like 400 rubies. Although the Ice Tour was the lowest point in the game overall, this was my personal low point. I was baffled, frustrated, and defeated. But you know me, I stuck around because I needed that daily Mario Kart stimulation. They had this trick tour where every course is a trick variant, and I admit that's a cool premise. But I was starting to lose motivation, and I wasn't able to complete the tours. And I was starting to think to myself that maybe it's time to put up my hat. The game is starting to get really repetitive, and I just witnessed a game-changing improvement getting revoked almost immediately. So I think it's about time that I leave Mario Kart Tour. Counter argument.
Yo, yo, yo!
Yeah, not much later, they added Funky Kong and Dixie Kong to the game. And so, just like that, I was back in. Like, come on, it's Funky Kong, the most popular character from Mario Kart Wii and one of the best fictional characters of all time. You could say I was invested, so I immediately went for the pipe he was in. I had about 420 rubies, so that was about a 95% chance to get him. 95? This game would have to be sick to not give me Funky Kong.
Hey guys.
Yeah, I'm out. That was the last straw. The last straw should have been months ago, but this was the secret straw I had in my back pocket. I can only get fucked over by Mario Kart mobile games so many times. My frustrations were clearly weighing out my enjoyments, so I left in a huff, confident that this game is terrible and I would never touch this game again. For like 4 months. So, what I missed during my break? Oh, you know, a lot. They had more new characters like Nabbit and King Babam. They created an alternate route of Calamari Desert where you drive on the train tracks for the majority of the race and have to avoid the train coming directly at you. You know, like the coolest thing ever to a Calamari Desert fan like myself. They also heavily revamped Choco Mountain and Airship Fortress. Oh my god, they were like, Sam, please come back, please, we miss you! However, the game finally caught my attention during the Mario 35th Anniversary Direct, where they announced that both Mario and DK Jr. as their Super Mario Kart sprites are coming to the game. That I had to see for myself. And although I didn't have the rubies to unlock them, I was at least able to admire them by looking at the computer players, and yeah, they look strange and out of place, but in a strangely charming way. During my return, I noticed that there was this new event token shop. I soon discovered that while I was gone, they added new collectibles called event tokens. So, how do you get them? You pull enough pipes? You need to apply to a subscription or something? Come on, what's the bullshit method? Wait, you collect them by actually playing the game? Depending on the tour, they can be on the racetrack or you can get them from causing opponents to crash. And they can be exchanged for various items that will help you build your inventory. Y'all, I'm so proud of these developers and their game design 101 knowledge. Maybe someday they'll take a game ethics class. I was bummed that they were still going through with the pipes having 100 items, but they now have an additional pipe every tour called the Special Pipe. Here the pipe actually had 50 items, and most of the time it consisted of older items to help newer players catch up. I kinda wish that the regular pipes were 30 and the special could be maybe 30, but it's still a welcome feature nonetheless. It at least made items more accessible. At this point, I was a bit on the fence, deciding whether or not it's worth getting back into the game, but I made up my mind as soon as it was announced that the next tour was gonna be the Los Angeles tour. This really caught my attention because LA, of all places, is now a racetrack in Mario Kart. I was thinking I shouldn't dedicate a whole segment on one track. But fuck you, it's my video. This is the Los Angeles section, baby! The reason why I was particularly interested in this city track is I actually live in LA. Well, not like the Los Angeles, I'm from one of the cities in the area. My point is that it's the most recognizable city for me, and I get to feel what people from New York or Tokyo felt when those cities got added. Soy Jack pointing and everything. I also think the idea of LA tie-ins to the bubbly Mario universe is just absurd. For those who aren't familiar with LA, have you at least played GTA 5? Yeah, Los Santos is based off Los Angeles and is horrifically accurate. The Mario Kart Tour devs must have played this and was like, what if Luigi was here? Jokes aside, this is actually one of my favorite city tracks. They use parts of the city to actually create fun course elements. The majority of the track is based off Santa Monica Beach, and driving around the beach is fun, but I would have liked to see more elements of the pier. I've been to Santa Monica Pier a few times, and they've got some fun attractions there, especially the arcade that I would have liked to see. And they have the Mario Kart arcade game there too, so there was a missed opportunity to add a cool Easter egg. We're also missing the crackheads that are usually in front of the bridge leading to the pier. There should be someone almost naked right about there. The second variant has you driving through the oil fields, which is a fun section because you have to have good timing so you don't get squished by the cranes. And in some variants you can actually trick off the top of the cranes, which is really satisfying. And finally, there is a Dodger Stadium, which I'm a bit disappointed by how brief it is. Would have been nice to actually drive on the field instead of gliding over it. And of course we have a cameo of staple West Coast fast food chain In-N-Out. Wait, it's burgers? I'm pretty sure it's called In-N-Out, but you know, I can just double check real quick. Oh. I could have sworn it was... Okay. Overall, the track design is about on par with most of the other city tracks, which is eh. But my favorite part about this track by far is the music. It's the perfect music for the beachside city vibe. The attitude this music gives is just immaculate. And I'm sorry, but the remix in Mario Kart 8 is kinda mid. The Los Angeles tour is one of my all-time favorite tours because of my attachment to the track and its music, but also because of a certain alternate costume that came out. Mario Sunshine. I'll call back to a costume you get in Super Mario Sunshine after collecting enough shines. Mario gets a pair of shades and a Hawaiian shirt with a shine sprite pattern. It's the most chill as fuck Mario design ever and I love it. His animations include adjusting his glasses. I don't know what he's doing here, but he looks cool doing it. And the jig he does when winning is, ooh, oh, kill him, kill him. He also has the giant banana special item, which is my favorite, but let's save that for a later segment because this Los Angeles segment has been going on long enough. It's just an important part of the game to me because this was when I decided to go back into the game, now with my frustrations in the past and am going in with more caution this time around. Following the Los Angeles tour was the Anniversary Tour, celebrating the game's 1-year anniversary. All the city tracks return alongside a bunch of alternate skins from those cities. Looking back, these pipes kinda sucked, but it was good for me who is now a bit behind in the game. The tour itself was kinda lame in retrospect. The game was being really penny pinching when pulling off this so-called celebration. There was barely any bonus rewards or appreciation for the player base, but that puts a close on the game's first year. It was a bit all over the place in terms of quality control, but that's natural when something is just starting out. I think the first year ended off on a high note though, so that makes me more hopeful than how things started out. And yes, we've only talked about the first year so far. We've only now just got to the second year. The less we complain, the sooner this can be over with. Early into this year, Mario Kart Tour announced the upcoming Mario vs. Luigi Tour, the first of a recurring event called a Team Rally, where players will choose 1 of 2 teams that'll compete against each other. It's pretty similar to Splatoon Splatfests. You collect team tokens during races, and the team with the total amount of tokens collected by the end of the tour wins. I like the idea, it grows the community aspect of the game and adds some more engagement. But the trend of neat idea, rough execution continues here. I've participated in every team rally, and most of the time one team has the advantage the whole tour and just wins at the end. They do a thing where they check the team's points every 2 days and give the losing team a support bonus, but what ends up happening is that the losing team performs too good with the boost so that the boost goes to the other team and they dominate again. The stakes are very low too. Both of the teams get rewards, which the winning team gets like 5 more rubies. I won't fault the devs too much for this one because most of the problems can't really be helped. The teams were going to be unbalanced no matter what. One team is always going to have more cheaters and more tryhards than the other. One thing about team rallies I think is charming is that the drivers themselves will also be split between the 2 teams, and you only be able to collect tokens by using them. Some of the team choices are obvious, like of course Peach is going to be on Team Mario and Luigi on Team Daisy, but I love the ones that show a little more personality. Like Bowser having such a petty hatred for Mario that he'd rather side with Luigi. In Bowser vs. Donkey Kong, Peach is on Team Bowser, and my headcanon is that she was forced to be on his team. And then there's ones that confuse me a bit, like Bowser and his minions are on Team Daisy and Peach vs. Daisy. Like you think they'd be on Team Peach, but I guess they had to balance the teams out. But yeah, I like seeing which team all the characters choose. It's good character building. Overall, team rallies have a neat concept, and I like to see a similar premise in a future Mario Kart. After the team rally was the holiday season. Around this time, we would expect to get the usual snow or ice themed retro track like Sherbet Land or something. And to that, Mario Kart Tour says,
"Fuck you! I hope your whole family has a nice Christmas!"
Merry Mountain, a brand new track and the first that isn't based off a real world city. This made me excited for the future because it means that there's a lot more creative freedom for new tracks. So about Merry Mountain, it looks gorgeous, but the track layout is literally an oval. Nothing special. But I can't bring myself to hate on it too much because it has such a cozy and whimsical atmosphere. I really liked it at the time. Maybe I was more intrigued by the precedent it set for creating new tracks. And don't worry, this was not the last of the brand new tracks. Fast forward to the start of 2021, we would see another city track in the form of Berlin Byways. It really just blends in with the rest of the city tracks apart from the aforementioned Berlin Wall. It was also pointed out to me how much this was misinterpreted. What remains of the real Berlin Wall has a bunch of artwork that symbolizes positivity and creative expression, all that nice stuff. But in Mario Kart, it has a bunch of in-universe advertisements. That's that's not great. One thing I will give credit to Berlin Byways is the music. I had no idea you could mix dubstep and royal family as orchestra so well. After this, nothing too out of the ordinary other than adding catsuit characters. Ew.
My cat Ronald the other day just lost a collar that looks exactly like that and then started using the internet. Hey Ronald. It's been a while.
That is until the announcement of a 1.5 anniversary celebration that would span across 3 tours. Is it just me or like celebrating a half year of something unusual? Then again, if I had half birthday celebrations, I would not be complaining. Now, I make fun of this idea of a celebration, but it actually ended up being the peak of the game in my opinion. The first of the 3 tours was Mario Tour, which, once again, a Mario Day celebration. I wouldn't really care for this tour if it weren't for the introduction of my favorite kart design in all of Mario Kart, the B-Dasher Mark II. I don't know what it is, maybe the traditional Formula 1 race car design and the sharp edges, but I am in love with this design, and I thankfully got it from the pipe with no issues. It only got better from here with the Yoshi Tour representing Easter, and this introduced having drivers, carts, or gliders as rank rewards for higher placement. This was a great inclusion because it motivates the player to do exceptionally well instead of just good enough so they don't go down a tier. So far we've seen some fun additions here and there, but the peakest of the peak is yet to be seen. The third and final tour of this celebration is the Ninja Tour, which, in my opinion, was the best tour this game had to offer. First off, the new track Ninja Hideaway is amazing. I will admit it's a bit rough to play in 8 Deluxe, but it functions a lot better in the game that it was actually meant for. The music goes so hard, especially the 8 Deluxe remix, and I love how there's multiple layers and split paths. Almost like if Yoshi Valley was properly executed. Shy Guy Ninja is also one of my favorite alternate costumes. I'm very lenient on style points as you may have gathered, and boy does he have style. He turns into a scroll in one of his animations like, come on. Plus, he was the first high-end character to get the Boomerang special item, which was a pretty popular item. Overall, the hype around the Ninja Tour was huge, and it was deserving of it. It also helped that the game gave out a lot of bonus rewards to commemorate the celebration. It was like they were admitting that the 1-year anniversary special was mid as hell, and that this was the true celebration of Mario Kart Tour thus far. About a year from this point, I convinced myself that I hated this game and never wanted to touch it again. But I'm glad I gave it another chance because I was able to accept that the game isn't going to fix its fundamental game design issues, so I might as well live with it, and just enjoy the game's strong suit, which was its content. And boy, did they give us some great content. Speaking of which, Australia Jump Scare. Sydney Sprint is a solid track. My favorite part is when you're by the train and the passengers throw a bunch of items on the road. That is technically littering and not something they should be doing, but what do I know, Australia has its own dimension.
Oh, I just found out that Americans call a flicky flicky willy donker a fucking light switch, mate.
At the time, I was more interested in the Bowser vs. Donkey Kong tour coming up. That pairing goes so hard, it's a mashup of raw strength. And I could not wait to see if either of them get a cool new costume, or see a Donkey Kong or Bowser themed course get added to tour. So I opened up the app, and here's all the new stuff that came to the Bowser vs. DK tour. I don't think this joke works because I use Fomora. There was nothing new added. Nothing. Okay, there were a few reskins of karts and gliders, but who cares? Every tour before it had at least either a new character, costume, or a track. Often it was both, but at least there was one of them. Here, nothing. This was the definition of filler and missed opportunities, because you know how awesome a costume for Donkey Kong or Bowser would have been. But nope. They didn't even bother, and this is a contender for one of the worst tours. I bring this up as an important part of the game's history because it was when the developers first came to the realization that sometimes they don't really need to try because they'll get money anyways. And because of that, we will see a lot more boring filler tours down the line. I remember around this time I felt like the game was out of steam. It's like they went all in with the 1.5 anniversary and didn't really plan what to do next. There would noticeably be a lack of new tracks around this time. you'd be lucky to get a new retro that month. And the new character costumes were really nothing that special. However, a new bonus challenge was introduced around this time called Kart Pro. Kart Pro was an event where you can earn a good amount of rubies by winning 3 multiplayer races in a row. This is a good time to mention that multiplayer was eventually added. Real multiplayer. Not single player pretending to be multiplayer. When it first released, I tried it out, and if I'm being honest, it should have stayed inbound. Lag and connection issues are the worst I've ever seen in a Mario Kart game. I've had red shells hit me without any warning pop up, players just appear in front of me, and I felt like an error could strike at any moment. You have an online multiplayer score similar to the normal Mario Kart games, but it's not in the same format as just big numbers. You instead have rankings like A or B and so on. Depending on how well you do, your percentage goes up or down, and you'll rank up once the meter hits 100%. For how long I've been playing this game, I've only been able to get to A because holy hell, it is such a grind fest. If I see someone with S+6 rank, which is real by the way, I'm going to treat them with the opposite of respect. The rule set also changes each day, and any rule set that isn't just a vanilla race is annoying. Like, they'll have teams where you can lose experience when you get first but your other teammates are in last. Very fun and awesome. Or when it forces everyone to be on 100cc, which 150 is already slow in Tour, so imagine the agony of going even slower. I don't understand why they enforce these rules instead of just being able to set them yourself. I should have collected much earlier that the devs just want the players to suffer. Overall, multiplayer is a mess, and I didn't want to touch it with a 10-foot pole. That is until Kart Pro was a thing, and was dangling these rubies in my face, and I was like, fine. I'll play it to complete Kart Pro real fast, and get out. How hard can it be? Kart Pro has to be the single most agonizing experience in any Mario Kart game. Imagine having to win 3 races in a row, right? While dealing with item hits not going through, other people's items hitting you out of nowhere, and the fear that the lobby will just self-destruct. If you get second or third, you can at least maintain your win streak, but lower than that, you have to start over. And now, this is the worst part. If there is a communication error in these servers that are run by a potato battery, that counts as a loss and you lose your win streak. You know how bullshit that is? That's like when a teacher marks you as unexcused absent even though on the way to school you got hit by a bus. Like, what did you expect me to do? This has taken me anywhere between 10 minutes to an hour, and it is the most miserable 10 minutes to an hour I've ever felt. But you know, I do it anyways because this game drip feeds your rubies and I have to take any method of getting them that doesn't involve spending money. But please, just stay away from multiplayer, it is the absolute worst, especially when the Kart Pro event is active. Anyways, they would pick up the pace a bit with the summer celebration, being another celebration with special awards and events, all that fun stuff, but it wasn't nearly as good as the 1.5 anniversary. I did appreciate the remake of Cheep Cheep Island and the return of Los Angeles Labs and Ninja Hideaway. The last event during the second year that's really worth mentioning was on August 25th, which was a very important moment not just in Mario Kart Tour, but the Mario Kart series. On August 25th, the Kamek Tour dropped, alongside the debut of Kamek. For those of you who are like straight face emoji, thumbs up emoji right now, I think you need a bit of a history lesson. You see, Kamek has had it rough with Mario Kart. The lack of Kamek, to be exact. He was originally going to be one of the characters in Mario Kart 64, but was replaced by Donkey Kong during development. Well, that kinda sucks, but maybe he can be a character in the near future, right?
No.
He did not make the roster in any of the Mario Kart games. He showed up in Wii as a bike. Oh no, what did they do to you? He was apparently scrapped again for base Mario Kart 8. Can't find any evidence now because the search results just show Kamek actually being in the game because of the boost scores pass, but trust me bro. Kamek has been done dirty throughout Mario Kart history and became one of the most popular wishlist characters for fans. So that's why his addition to Mario Kart Tour was so meaningful and was a lot more exciting than the other characters added. The devs were aware of the hype behind his character too because they put him on the cover with the tour being named after him and everything. And they also gave him the most popular special item being Coin Box. I'm not even the biggest Kamek fan, but I just find his history with Mario Kart to be very intriguing, so I consider his debut to be an important moment in Mario Kart Tour. And for those who main Kamek in Mario Kart 8, which I do on occasion, you have this game to thank for it. So you might have noticed I've been pointing out that certain special skills like the coin box or boomerang flower were popular among the community. To explain why, I suppose it's the best time to talk about Mario Kart Tour's meta. Yeah, Mario Kart Tour has a meta. Even more so than the console games. The meta of a game, for those who don't know, means the optimal strategy or decisions you make for the best possible performance. For instance, the meta combination of Mario Kart Wii is Funky Kong and the Flame Runner due to having the highest speed stat, but things work a bit differently on the phone. Every character, kart, and glider combination have the same speed, so players instead have to choose what to race with based on how high of a score it'll give them. Players have concluded that the special items that are the best at achieving this are the Lucky 7, because, you know, there's a bunch of shit flying out, so you'll get points from all the casualties. Giant Banana, which is my personal favorite, because when you get a frenzy and place like 20 giant bananas, the track becomes a fucking minefield and you get a bunch of hit notifications. Oh, it's so satisfying. Coin box is self-explanatory. It spews out a bunch of coins. Coins give you points. Obviously, it's really good. These 3 special items are viewed as the most optimal when scoring points. The Holy Trinity, if you will. But there's a 4th item that is argued to be even better than all of them. The Boomerang Flower. How it works is that it grabs coins on the track and pulls them towards you, which is already pretty good. But then one day, some player had the idea to use the boomerang to nab the coins coming out of a computer player's coin box. The fanbase named this technique boomboxing. Because, you know, boomerang and coin box. Yeah, clever. Boomboxing could get you even more points than just collecting coins from your own box. It spawns coins around your cart, so you only collect the ones that land in front of you. But with the boomerang, if you position it right, you can sweep all of the coins that come out of another player's box, so you get way more points. Although there are some competitive players that don't go for the boombox strategy because it's such an elaborate setup. You need to hope that you get a computer player in your lobby with the coin box skill, and you need to be at the right place at the right time. It's very time consuming. Still, I admire the competitive player base for finding out these wacky strategies to get the highest possible score. And if boomboxing shows anything, it shows that the meta players have quite the dedication. And as we further explore meta strategies, you'll see that maybe they went a bit overkill. As for the karts, they give different bonuses like extra points from rocket starts, drifting, jump boost, and so on. I think mini turbo is generally the best skill, but jump boost is even better for trick variants or courses with considerably more ramps. Well, there we go, that was simple. Too simple, I guess, because people found another aspect of karts to hyper-analyze: hitboxes. Yes, it's one of those fan bases. The karts with bigger hitboxes are favored because then you can collect more coins from coin boxes. Now, I understand where they're coming from. I agree that a bigger hitbox helps, but from my observations, it seems like its importance is a bit exaggerated in the competitive space. From my experience of being in the community servers, whenever a new kart drops, there would be so much yapping about its hitbox size, and I can't help but feel annoyed. Like, so much effort is put into some of these kart designs, but, you know, if they're small, they get treated like shit, and it makes me sad. The gliders, thankfully, aren't that deep. They just give increased chances to get a certain item. I find items that increase lightning to be the best because it won't interfere with your odds of getting your special items since you can only get lightning in last place anyways, at least to my knowledge. So yeah, that's the meta of Mario Kart Tour. Drivers with certain special items, karts gotta be big, and gliders doesn't really matter. Unfortunately, it gets deeper and it gets worse. I'm about to open a big can of worms, so I'm gonna try my hardest to make sure you follow along with me. You see, you can't just pick any coin box driver on any track, because remember, each driver, kart, and glider has a list of tracks they perform the best at, so you also have to make sure that driver is favored on that track. Each tour, a bunch of items get buffed, or get new favorite tracks, and the more of those they get, the more valuable they become. How can you tell if an item will get buffed next tour? You really can't. You can pick up context clues, but there's no certain way to know how much an item will get buffed next tour. Let's say you got, I don't know, Mario Tuxedo, and you think you'll get a lot of favorite tracks, so you put a bunch of tickets on them. You only think he will do well. There's no way of knowing if he will show up in the next tour's Ranked Cup until that's where it happens, so you're just hoping and praying they do well. You can get a vague idea of how well they'll do because if the game makes them harder to get, then chances are they'll get more tracks, but you can't always be certain. But once you've collected enough meta items, you then have to worry about overlap, where let's say a character is favored on the same track that favors an even better character, so that character becomes worthless on that track. Do I still have your attention? I have some problems with this. Don't get me wrong, it's really satisfying to see an item you leveled up a lot get buffs after buffs, but that won't always be the case. I want to play as my favorite characters, but the game can discourage me to do so because they don't appear on the top shelf of tracks that often, and I get rewarded for just doing what everyone else is doing. Now, there were meta combinations in previous Mario Kart games as I've mentioned, but in say Mario Kart 8 Deluxe, you can pretty much play as anything and you'll do just fine. Making sure you have good loadouts for the rank cups can already be stressful. So imagine doing all cup ranking, where you need to make sure you have good loadouts in every track in that tour. The community has made these trackers and spreadsheets to help project your scoring potential for each track. It does seem to make the all cup ranking experience more organized, but at that point, are we still playing Mario Kart? We're using Google Sheets? This is the point where I just tap out. Like, this isn't a rag on the creators of these sheets. I'm just trying to demonstrate that a game can take its meta a bit too far. Games can have an optimal play strategy that's just inherent for a game, but it shouldn't be so deep to the extent that this Mario Kart game has systems that's pretty much a stock investment simulator. Like investing in a go-kart and watch its value rise and fall. What are we doing right now? I want to go back to being all like, it's me, Luigi, yahoo, wahoo, it's time to win the race. And now it's like, oh no. The sneaker just went down 12%. The meta of Mario Kart Tour is overly complicated, and if I lost you during this segment, that only proves my point. I really tried my best to explain it. And this brings up a good point on why many Mario Kart fans do not care for this installment. It's the Mario Kart that's the furthest from being a Mario Kart. The other games are so enjoyable because it's simple yet flexible. Casual players can have a basic understanding of how the game works, but those who want to master it won't get bored by its simplicity. There's optimal routing for race courses and character and card stats to consider. This is why the Mario Kart series is as famed as it is, where both casual and competitive players can find enjoyment. Mario Kart Tour, on the other hand, is neither simple nor flexible. It's quite layered in how the game works, given how long this review has been so far. And you can't really play the game however you want, given that the algorithm favors specific character card combinations. So it scares away the casual fans who just want to do what they want, and it doesn't do much to entice the competitive ones either. Although Tour has a very layered meta strategy to it, it's nothing like the console games. No vehicle stats or optimal course cutting, now that the vehicles have completely different kinds of stats, and that the goal is to keep a score combo rather than purely crossing the finish line. My point to all this is that you can't really blame anyone for not liking Mario Kart Tour. It's natural for a Mario Kart fan to not be interested in the game that is the least Mario Kart. Being a fan of a game series does not mean you have to like every installment and be on board when one completely changes how it works. People don't like Mario Kart simply because it has Mario in a kart. They like the mechanics and strategies that make it Mario Kart. So when Tour reworks the game's mechanics that fans were completely content with, then yeah, no shit, people aren't going to like it. If you're a fan of MKT, that's totally fine. I can see the appeal in this game's strategies as I've enjoyed them myself. But it's important that you at least understand why other people aren't a fan. If you dismiss any criticism as people just being ignorant haters, that's not healthy. And defensive fanboyism is arguably more toxic than hating on the game. It amazes me how illiterate some people can be whenever a fanbase of a game series has fucking 2 factions. Anyways, I strongly suggest going in this game with a semi-casual approach, as I've previously mentioned, balancing your needs with your wants. But if you really want to go full competitive, just embrace the migraines. The first tour of this year was the Autumn Tour, and I have mixed feelings. On one hand, it's autumn themed and I love to see it, and Tanuki Mario, my main in Mario Kart 8 Deluxe, got added to the game. So of course I had to get him from the pipe, and I didn't have much trouble doing so. Alongside Tanuki Mario was a new special item, the Super Leaf. It works a bit differently than it does in Mario Kart 7. Rather than serving both as defense and close-range offense, it instead has a tail swerve around your cart for a short time that will hit surrounding opponents and collect coins. Yeah, it's pretty much a worse boomerang flower, like in every way. Neat. Other than that small thing, this doesn't really seem like a bad tour. Well, Mario would not be the only one getting a Tanuki costume. They also brought in Tanuki Rosa. Oh my god. I forgot she looks like this. They did something a bit interesting with her in terms of getting her. You think she would be in the other main pipe, but she was actually in the special pipe, the one with 50 contents instead of 100, with the theme of big ear characters, which I think that's the funniest substitute name for furries. Guys, I promise this gets somewhere important. So that sounds nice, doesn't it? Those who want to get her can have an easier time since she's in the smaller pipe. Well, I think we should read the fine print. This pipe does not feature spotlights. So what does this mean? She is not guaranteed, just one of the handful of drivers you might get. So the only good part of the gacha you're just not gonna use? Are we really doing this? So this was the start of Mario Kart Tour occasionally adding items exclusive to being non-guaranteed pipe items. And this just frustrates me so much. Like the one redeeming quality about the Gacha Pipes were the spotlight items, where as long as you saved up enough, you would eventually get them, right? But now on occasion, with for instance the gold pumpkin cart, that one redeeming quality is thrown out the window since it isn't a spotlight. So if you reach the very bottom and didn't get it, the game then wants you to reset and reach the bottom again, however many more times. This is just gambling. It was gambling before, but it had safety bumpers at least. But here, now that's just a bottomless pit, this is gambling at its purest state.
Let's go gambling! Aw, dang it! Aw, dang it! Aw, dang it! Aw, dang
Game, like, come on. Why are you slowly stripping away the things you're doing right? You're going out of your way to do this. Look, I want to like you, but sometimes you just make it really hard to do that. Look, it's not a big deal in the grand scheme of things, but it still bothers me. They were definitely trying to take advantage of its player base by making items artificially more rare, and I feel pity for anyone who fell for their schemes. Don't look at that. It didn't really help that there was a lot of filler around this time. It seemed like 2021 was pretty slow for this game. Even when there was hype, it was pretty short-lived. Can't imagine what may have been causing that. But little did we know that 2022 was the year where Mario Kart fans ate. To start, Tour was getting back in action once they dropped Singapore's Speedway. And although Los Angeles is a personal favorite of mine, I see this as the best city track. The aesthetics are glorious, of course, but more importantly, the track design is actually varied and super creative. You get launched at this rooftop pool, drive on these conveyor belts around some really vibrant architecture, and there's a Chinatown section with its own music variation. I love it when tracks do that. And get this, try not to pass out from this news, but you don't just drive on the road. You can actually drive on top of some structures. They're finally taking full advantage of the real-world city concept. It honestly doesn't feel like a city track, and that's the best compliment you can give to a city track. It's strange that not even 5 minutes ago I was upset at their treatment with the Gacha Pipes, and now I'm riding their meat because they made a cool race course, and they actually started to give special pipe spotlights again. And yeah, Mario Kart Tour is just like that. The game's quality really comes in peaks and valleys, because the creativity of the content and the questionable game design decisions are always clashing with each other. Like I said earlier in this review, I just tried to live with the game's mechanics to enjoy the race courses and the new characters when I could obtain them. So when I point out frustrating moments like these, it's not like I'm trying to say everything is ruined, but it's something worth criticizing. Things continue to go strong, retro tracks coming in hot, another celebration on the way, and Charging Chuck makes his debut, which is really cool. All is going well with Mario Kart Tour. But soon, Tour wouldn't be the only Mario Kart game to get all the fun. Mario Kart 8 Deluxe is the best-selling game on the Switch, but for some reason it took Nintendo a very long time to realize that they can capitalize off this even more. They would soon host a new Nintendo Direct, the only event where people will scream at a book. But for the one on February 9th, 2022, they decided to awaken all the Mario Kart 8 sleeper agents.
What did you think? Here's some news for Mario Kart fans.
The announcement of the Booster Course Pass. Mario Kart 8 Deluxe was getting DLC, 48 remastered courses throughout the series. Now with game announcements, I get really hyped and all, but it's more on the inside. You won't catch me breaking the sound barrier. Oh my god! Holy shit! It's Mario and Luigi. However, this announcement was enough to unleash the beast. Mario Kart fans, including myself, were really excited for the Booster Course Pass. Now, I won't review the whole thing in this video since that's not what this video is about, but I want to explain how it's relevant to Mario Kart Tour. You probably noticed the DLC being very lenient toward Mario Kart Tour tracks. Every Mario Kart Tour track, excluding one for whatever reason, are in the Booster Course Pass. And the other retro tracks are clearly based on the version in MKT. So why did they do this, other than, being lazy? Remember, Mario Kart Tour is a live service game, so it's not going to always be available. It will eventually shut down along with its content. So the Booster Course Pass in actuality is just an archive for the tour tracks. Because I know y'all would be weeping and sobbing if we couldn't play London Loop ever again. In all seriousness, this was a smart idea, and it's a rare occasion that Nintendo cares about preservation. Although, I admit, it kind of killed the hype for the Booster Course Pass for me. Like, it was advertised as this big celebration of the series, but in actuality it's just a glorified archive project. That's just me though, and I still had a lot of fun with the Booster Course Pass. A handful of tracks I enjoyed even more than the base game, and hey, the more Mario Kart the better. I just think it killed the excitement once we had a good idea of what tracks were going to get added, especially with the leaks that killed any interesting speculation. As 8 Deluxe began its waves of DLC, some big things were coming to Tour as well. A big update was released that increased the max level of items from 7 to 8, which means competitive play will be more difficult. That's nice. But more notably, it added the ability to play as Miis. At long last, I can fulfill the prophecy. In order to play as your Mii, you need to have a Mii suit, which is treated the same way as drivers, having favorite tracks in their own special skill. Small waves of Mii suits would come every tour, until eventually capped at 65 Mii suits. What? Although a handful are just basic colors, the majority are themed after characters or inanimate objects, and I really dig these designs. My favorites are probably the Dolphin, Hammer Bro, and the Pastry Chef suit. The yellow Mii suit is my favorite to play competitively. Giant Banana Squad, where you at? On the other side of the spectrum is shit like the PD Piranha suit and oh my god, the Koopa Clown Car suit. What are these Toy Story-ass pajamas? You do not have a friend in me. I don't think we needed 65 Mii suits, but you know, at least it means there's a little something for everyone. So overall, this seems like a harmless addition. But little did we know that Cleveland Brown was going to change the competitive space entirely. Because there are some quirks to the Mii suit that the normal drivers don't have. Every additional Mii suit you get, it increases the base points of all your Mii suits by 10. Which also means the point ceiling increases. So if you collect enough of these suits, your single Mii will greatly overpower all of the drivers you own, because they can't obtain the amount of points your Mii can. Also, for some reason, they made it where the first track of every cup increases the amount of item slots the Mii suits have. Slowly but surely, these suits are going to replace all of these drivers you used on each track, and they'll become less valuable or even obsolete. You know, I used to get excited whenever I had a character that had both a really cool design and was super valuable, but oops, they've been replaced by Hank Hill. So once again, they nerfed one of the few parts I like about Tour, being the new characters, by making them inferior to the Mii suits in pretty much every way. There was clearly a lack of moderation here. They did not think about the long game. If there were like 20 Mii suits and they didn't get as many favorite tracks, things would be more balanced. On the plus side, at least to simplify the overly complicated metagame, you can just get all the Mii suits now and you should do just fine. I didn't get all the Mii suits, because I'm a contrarian. I'm more special than you because I like Paper Mario Color Splash. Due to the Miis, I feel like the competitive aspect of Mario Kart Tour died for me, now that there's just one set solution. So at this point, I was just here to have fun. And fun did I have? We got some pretty neat city tracks like Amsterdam Drift and Bangkok Rush. I don't really care for Amsterdam Drift, like I do like the more quiet and peaceful vibe, but the track design doesn't really do anything for me. I especially don't like the underwater canal. Bangkok Rush on the other hand is a banger. It's got a beautiful yellow and orange color scheme and some challenging track design like the spiraling parking lot, the subway, and that one river place with the boats. People watching from Bangkok are very disappointed in me right now. My point being, this is one of the better city tracks in my opinion. Shortly after, we would get a popular character returning from Mario Kart Double Dash, PD Piranha. Not the biggest fan of PD myself, but there are fans of him, so I'm glad they ate well of this. Just a shame that the PD Piranha Mii suit came out at the same time, with the same special item as him, so I assume that the Mii suit did better than the character it's based off of, which, yeah, that kinda sucks. Later that summer, Sky High Sundae would drop in Tour shortly after it did in the Booster Course Pass. It's weird because it was advertised as a brand new track for Mario Kart 8, with this big ass new sticker slapped in the trailer, but if you play the track yourself and just gathered context clues, it was clearly made for Tour. This occurred often during the Booster Course Pass where there would be a new track included in it, only for it to come to Tour a few weeks later. This sparked some real spicy and totally not a waste of energy discourse between fans on whether these are considered as Tour tracks or 8 Deluxe tracks. How I see it, it's both. Yeah, I'm just chill like that. They were released simultaneously on both games, and I don't think it gets deeper than that. Some courses I will say are more leniently designed for one game. Like Merry Mountain Ninja Hideaway, I can clearly tell it was made with Tour in mind, while clearly courses like Yoshi's Island and Squeaky Clean Sprint were more fleshed out in their Mario Kart 8 versions. So yeah, the answer is both. This is the dumbest argument I've ever seen for Mario Kart. And just, while observing discussions when Tour and the Booster Course Pass were relevant, I came to the conclusion that the Mario Kart fanbase is just really annoying. It's pretty much stupid people trying to sound smart. Let's take a look at booster course patch discussions. Let's say you want to see Moonview Highway in the next wave, and you let the internet know that. And then some redditor would be like, actually, this isn't going to happen because it's not in the data mines that are totally not subject to change. Why aren't you looking at the data mines? What, you just want things to be a surprise? I guess your predictions will just be wrong then. And then they would make a fool of themselves when the next wave would have the tracks that were not in the data mines. Booster course pass discussions were pretty much both sides talking to brick walls, and Tour isn't much better. Mario Kart Tour fans unfortunately suffer from the same thing that fanbases from other heavily criticized media suffer from, which is being really defensive. Not all fans are like this, of course, so if you like Tour and you don't act like this, you're chill. But when it comes to the most vocal ones, yeah, they don't really help the game's reputation. If you remotely criticize Mario Kart Tour or the Tour tracks in the DLC, you'd get jumped by kids who frankly shouldn't have access to a keyboard. For some reason, they can't wrap their heads around the fact that this game includes controversial stuff and is very different from the typical Mario Kart, so reasonably lots of people won't like it. The Mario Kart fanbase feels like a war between Mario Kart 8 fans and Tour fans. In other words, baby fights. It seems like I'm getting sidetracked, but I did say I want to cover Mario Kart Tour in full, including everything that surrounds it. And the community, at least the most vocal part, is just really weird. Like, take this franchise too seriously where Italians drive go-karts through a shopping mall. And a little PSA for any Tour fans watching who do this shit: if you want people to stop hating on your game and want to save this game's image, being publicly defensive and arguing with internet strangers is not the way to do it. I get it. It sucks when I really like something but it gets shit on by a lot of people. But there's no way to change that. You can't change anyone's mind, so you'll just have to agree to disagree. Being a white knight will only hurt the game's reputation further, because then people will associate the game with an encounter with an annoying fanboy. If you like something that's criticized a lot, instead of trying to fight the haters, you should instead express your passion by discussing with other people who like it. There is no good outcome that comes out of arguing with everyone that disagrees with you. Anyways, wasn't I supposed to talk about Sky High Sundae? That track kinda sucks, but White Snooki Mario is based. Moving on. Speaking of sucking, this is a horrible transition. The Bowser Tour was up next, and a few things of note occurred doing this. For one, it added Bowser Castle 3 from Super Circuit. That game had 4 Bowser Castles for some reason, but the third installment was the best and most unique. Instead of the red and orange theming, it had a more blue tone with the stormy sky, and it looks great. And I couldn't wait to see it return since Mario Kart Wii. So let's see how it looks in beautiful iPhone glory. Oh, no, that's the wrong one. That's like Bowser Castle 1 or something, right? Wait. This is Bowser Castle 3? Why does it look like... Oh... Yeah, they just reused the same theming as the previous GBA Bowser Castles. It's disappointing for sure, but also frustratingly lazy because it could not have been that hard to make custom textures. It's whatever. It was like 2 years ago, nobody gives a shit anymore. Something else during the Bowser Tour that should be given shits is a certain announcement from the game. There was a news page announcing a big update coming after the 3rd anniversary tour, where it would finally add battle mode, which is cool. Oh, and Gacha Pipes were being permanently removed from the game. You know, just casually telling us that one of the game's biggest issues is being addressed. This news was huge. It made it into gaming articles that nobody actually read, they just looked at the headline. It expanded outside of the scope of Mario Kart Tour. I do want to clarify because some people are insistent on telling you that Gacha got completely removed because it technically wasn't. The free Gacha pipes that you can fire by simply playing the game are staying, but the pipes that cost rubies to fire, which could be purchased with real money, are leaving. And honestly, that's all that was needed. As I've said before, Gacha is fine as long as it's not predatory and leaves your wallet alone. Everyone was excited to hear this news. It feels like this game might actually be well received by the public. But if for some reason you were sad the money pipes are gone, I've got just a place for you. I'm proud of these developers doing the right thing. It only took 3 years and a threat from Europe. But before that would happen, we would have to wait until after the 3rd anniversary tour, the last tour with pipes that cost rubies. So this was your last chance to experience the great mental turmoil that these pipes put you through. In fact, this tour had what I consider to be the final boss of Gacha. The absolute scummiest of scum you'll ever see in any Mario game. So to celebrate the game's anniversary, they added King Mario with the popular coin box skill to make him wanted for competitive players. In order to get him though, you'll need to pull him out of the special pipe that had 15 Marios in it. If I remember correctly, there were 6 high-end drivers in the pipe, so that's 6 times it will pull on these Marios. This seems like a really good pipe, especially if you want to collect all the Mario variants. just one small, teensy-weensy, itty-bitty microscopic issue. King Mario is not a spotlight character. Once again, not guaranteed before emptying the pipe. So, did you want to get this new valuable character that you can assume is going to be very OP? Well, the high-end character odds start at 6 of 50 or 12%, which is good, apparently. But you see, once that star pops up and you're about to get a high-end character, the chances of that being King Mario is 1 in 15, or 6.7%. What the fuck? Okay, I feel like we have to do some further calculations to prove just how bullshit this is. I actually had to flashback to my pre-calculus class for this. Thanks, Mario. In order to calculate the chances of King Mario even being in that pipe, we have to raise the odds of the high-end not being king, which is 0.933, to the power of the amount of high-ends in that pipe, which is 6, and you get 0.51072. Subtract that from 1 to calculate the odds of King Mario being in the pipe, and you get 48.9%. Now you might be like, hey, that's not that bad, it's only a slightly weighted coin flip. Here's the thing, you are not going to know if you lost that coin flip until it's too late. Pulling all 6 of the high ends in this pipe will cost you anywhere from 30 to 250 rubies. In other words, you're spending 30 to 250 rubies to get 6 chances to win a 1 in 15. And if all 6 of those Marios you pulled weren't king, don't worry, because you can just reset the pipe and hope he's there this time. If he's not there, do it again, and again, and again, and again. You can try as many times as you want. You will eventually run out of rubies, but just buy some more. Buy hundreds. Hey, buy thousands. However much it takes to get this royal asshole. This is the absolute worst of this game's gacha I've ever seen. With the usual pipes, they at least have it where you're guaranteed to get the featured character before you hit the bottom. So like, I guess it's fine? And then once they started doing pipes where the new item isn't a spotlight, the odds approach reasonable. But here, King Mario is a needle in a haystack. Once you get him, you're not gonna feel like a king. You're gonna be like, spare change, man. I don't even like him. I don't think most people even do. But people tried to get him anyways because the game is teasing you, being like, ooh, look at this cool character. He's really rare and has that shiny coin dispenser. Try to obtain him among the rest of the Mario multiverse. They're exploiting the hell out of their players, and I am just disgusted at this. You might think I'm over-exaggerating, and I'm just trying to be one of those YouTubers who yell at kids' games or animated movies. But you realize this isn't just something like bad graphics or annoying game mechanics. This is a scam. An actual scam, and children are part of the victims. I'm mad as a player, sure, but also as an aspiring game designer, and it frustrates me whenever games are designed with clear ill intent. Do not underestimate the gacha vortex. It's inherently addicting, and before you know it, you'll spend away more money than you ever wanted to. This is hard evidence that criticism regarding towards practices are absolutely valid. This is something I can't let slide like I did with the pricey microtransactions or the quote-unquote normal gacha pipes. You just cannot do this. It's absolutely disgusting. For me, this has done permanent damage to my perception of this game, and it is now on thin ice. The ruby pipes may have left after this, but man, did it go out in flames. Right off the bat, we have a lot to talk about for the 4th year, considering the massive changes being made. Let's first get into the removal of the gacha pipes. Again, only the pipes that costed rubies are being removed, because rubies could be bought with money. Now there are pipes that are gifted to players when doing well in races, where you can get a random item in a pool of drivers, carts, and gliders. Progression is still quite RNG based because of this, but they're handing these out to you. All that matters is that your wallet is closed. So if the main pipes are gone, where will you be getting the featured drivers, carts, and gliders now? May I introduce the Spotlight Shop. Here, Spotlight drivers, carts, and gliders can be bought with a fixed amount of rubies. Huh. I'm shocked that this, actually works. Players should use their hard-earned resources to directly purchase items, not gamble for them. Utterly brilliant. Sarcasm aside, this is the best alternative to the pipes without changing too much of how the game works. But the other part of the Spotlight Shop is something I'm a bit iffy about. There's also the daily spotlights that feature a select few drivers, carts, and gliders that aren't in the spotlight but still present in ranked. And the items listed are reshuffled every day, with some items having higher or lower odds to show up. That sounds like RNG. Are you guys also getting chills? And you can use these quick tickets to reshuffle the daily spotlights instead of having to wait. Oh, this is just gacha again. You're using resources to have random items show up, hoping it's what you wanted. Now granted, it's not nearly as aggressive, and quick tickets can't be bought with money, but part of the problem was that RNG played a massive role in building your inventory, and now it still does. If you want a specific item within the daily spotlight selection, you just have to hope it's there when you wake up the next day. So when people say that this game doesn't have gacha anymore, that's technically not true. They just read a gaming article headline, I guess. And speaking of which, I know this is off topic, but I just really want to share this. If this is true, that's funny as fuck. This means there still isn't natural progression to unlocking parts. The prices for these items don't help the progression either. A driver will cost 150 rubies while carts and gliders cost 100. Now the weekly spotlight items are at a slight discount, but only those select few. If you're free to play, you can buy maybe one thing every tour. So the system is still heavily pay to win, which if we look back at those prices, the $70 option isn't even worth one character in the daily spotlight. Some things never change, I guess. If it were up to me, I would make a driver's base price be 100 and carts and gliders be 75. Grievances aside, this is still a massive improvement. The fact that if you see the item in the shop, you can just get it now is a relief. I just wish the new system would be good instead of not as bad. So if you want to return to this game, know that it's still pay to win and RNG still plays a big role, just, you know, not as bad. The other thing that was added with the new year is the glorious return of battle mode. It sucks. Sorry to spoil it out the gate, but this was never meant for tour. The rules play like your typical balloon battle. Pop your opponent's balloons and beat the last person with balloons to spare. A positive I will give to this battle mode is that it's elimination based instead of in a deluxe where the match just ends after a timer. But you know what's integral in order for battle mode to work? Free control. The goal isn't to just loop around a linear racetrack. The battle stages are designed for players to find places to duke it out with other people. In battle mode, you need to put a lot more thought into your driving. You can chase after certain players, hide from other players if you're low on balloons, or you could even camp at an item box set to get a good item. The point is that you go at your own pace. And tell me how that works in a game where you automatically go forward. You can't pull the brakes, and trying to turn your character the other way is like a penny going down in one of those machines you see in Walmart. You can imagine that trying to hunt down other players while everyone is constantly moving at the same speed is extremely annoying. Oh, and there's only 5 arenas: Battle Course 1, Cookie Land, Twilight Town, and 2 that just use portions of the city tracks. They must have looked at the battle mode from the Wii U version of Mario Kart 8 and were like, oh my god, it's beautiful. To be fair, if I was actively working on a Mario Kart mobile game for 3 years, I'd stop giving a shit too. They're checked out like I am writing this 30-page long script, I get it. Battle mode just sucks. I don't know how they were able to make it worse than Mario Kart 8. Other than those 2 things, there really isn't that much to talk about for this year. The pipes were the spiciest thing to talk about, so now that they're gone, we don't really have much to work with. However, this year was overwhelming when it came to the content. We got a fair amount of carts and gliders, new characters were slowing down, but oh man, there were so many tracks added. A good chunk of them are brand new. Starting with Piranha Plant Cove, most of you may recognize this from the Booster Course Pass. I think it's solid, love the aesthetic, but I don't really think it needed to be segmented. In Tour, there is a Piranha Plant Cove 1, 2, and 3, each having a different route. I think that's a bit unnecessary considering the individual routes are a bit lackluster. When they're put together like in 8 Deluxe, the track actually feels complete. Later that spring, we would see Yoshi's Island, my favorite new Booster Course Pass track. I'm not even a fan of the Yoshi's Island series, but I'm still charmed by this. Love how the map is based off the title screen and it has a unique ending theme. It's fine in Tour, but there were a few things absent that were in the 8 Deluxe version, being the Yoshi-themed coins, and the cloud that creates the bridge is frozen in place instead of moving around, removing the most investing part of the track. This was clearly made specifically for 8 Deluxe and then put it in Tour because they had to. The same can be said for Squeaky Clean Sprint. It's still fun in Tour, but 8 Deluxe has the upper hand here as well. Somehow creates a really fun track out of a bathroom, using different shelves as different paths, going down the bathtub drain and swimming through the pipes. It's really neat. Fun track with a fun idea. I'm still deciding if I like this or Ribbon Road better, given that they have a similar premise. And then there's Piranha Plant Pipeline, the only Tour track not on the Booster Course Pass. This track might be gone forever, assuming it doesn't come to the next Mario Kart. Not that you'd be missing much, because it feels like a lesser version of Piranha Plant Slide. I do like the music better than Slide though, and it's fun having to ride through all the tubes. Although it struggles to have its own identity, I do think it should return in the next Mario Kart game because it's really fun. Moving on to the new city tracks, starting with Athens Dash. This one stands out in a good way because rather than being 80% city streets, it emphasizes the ruins of Athens, leading to much more exciting gameplay while perfectly demonstrating the culture of the city it's based on. It also shows that you can still make a great race course out of a premise as restricting as real-world location. I know not every city has ruins, but they still have other unique set pieces that are either underutilized or not utilized at all. And speaking of which, Roma Vanti. Cool name. The track is not. It's boring. We're going down a bunch of roads again, looking at buildings instead of driving on them. No innovation going on here. The Coliseum is cool, but that makes up like 5% of the track. Would be my least favorite city track, but Tokyo doesn't have a Coliseum or anything at all. Madrid Drive, on the other hand, is a stupid name, but a really good course. Love the football stadium with the shoe goombas, or Shumbas as I like to call them, kicking around the footballs. I would fly all the way to Madrid to watch this game. The museum is also neat, albeit a bit short-lived. My favorite part about this track has to be the music. It's already catchy, but it has alternate versions for both the stadium and the museum. Once again, love it when they do that. And that's actually the final city track, leaving 14 in total. Final thoughts on the cities? I think the premise is a double-edged sword. On one hand, the fact that they're based on recognizable locations gives them lots of appeal. But being based on a real location comes with a lot of restrictions, having to keep it accurate to the source and has to be more realistic than the usual Mario Kart track. And the fact that all of them have the city aesthetic makes them all feel too similar. If it weren't for Tour creating tracks of original concepts, the game's lineup for new tracks would be pretty mediocre. Anyways, in case you're curious, here's my rankings of all the city tracks. So that's a lot of tracks we just went over, but buddy, that's but a morsel of the tracks that came out that year. To demonstrate, here's a full list of every other track that came out to Tour in this year alone. Oh shit, here we go. A remixed version of Donut Plains, Boo Lake, DK Mountain, Riverside Park, Peach Gardens, Snowland, Wee Rainbow Road, which sucks ass now because it's only one lap long and the road is really ugly, Shroom Ridge, DS Mario Circuit, Dry Dry Ruins, Yoshi Desert, SNES Bowser's Castle 3, GBA Bowser Castle 4, a really cool remake but didn't come to the Boost Course Pass so it will be lost in the sands of time, Mushroom Bridge, Daisy Circuit, Peach Circuit, Mario Raceway, GBA Luigi Circuit, Waluigi Stadium, Moonview Highway, Lakeside Park, and the remixed version of Vanilla Lake. Jesus. So do you want to know the total amount of courses in Mario Kart Tour? Approximately 136. And that doesn't include each of the track's reverse and trick variations. Yeah, I was not kidding when I said this is the Smash Ultimate of Mario Kart. At the time, this was just overwhelming. It was becoming really difficult to make sure I'm covered with favorite items on every track now that they were coming out so fast. I didn't understand why they couldn't just slow down, like what's the rush? Oh. On September 10th of 2023, Nintendo announced that after the 4th anniversary tour, they will no longer be adding additional content to the game. The last bits of content would be added to that tour. This news was very devastating for people with sunk cost fallacy. Truly, there was not a more tragic day than September 10th. To me, this felt a bit surreal because this game has been a part of a good chunk of my life. I first played MKT when it launched during my freshman year of high school, and they dropped this announcement once I started college. I've been playing this game throughout the biggest events of my life, like the lockdown from the cringe virus and high school graduation, so I admit this game has a bit of sentimental value to me. So I can't fully commit to the haha rest in hell bit, because as I've shown throughout these videos, there were actually some great moments, dare I say some highlights of Mario Kart history. But I have to ask, why now? Only a year after fixing one of the game's most controversial parts? You just want to stop? It felt like things were just getting started with this new era, and if they addressed the microtransactions by either lowering the costs or making the resources received more justified, we actually could have had one of the most tolerable modern mobile games. As it is now, it's decent, at least a lot better than it was 4 years ago, but there was a lot of room for improvement and had plenty of time to do so. Even though I'm confused with their decision, I also kind of understand. I don't know how small the team behind Tour is, but I can't imagine it being as big as the ones behind the console games. So if you're tasked with adding new content every 2 weeks for 4 years, then holy shit, you need to rest. At the end of the day, there's human beings working on this, so understand that this game can't be worked on forever. I suppose we should take a look at the final unique tour for old time's sake. The 4th anniversary tour. It was fine. They brought back King Mario and put him in the Spotlight shop, which was simultaneously forgiving for those who missed out on him, and insulting for those who gambled hundreds for him. The last character was fittingly Gold Mario, and I'd say he's a bigger deal than King Mario because he has his own unique ability called Coin Vacuum. If Gold Mario is close enough, coins will just come to him, and that's obviously busted. So you might be asking what's the absolute horseshit way the game has players unlock him. Actually, he's just a reward for the rank cup. This was a smart decision because unlocking this super OP character would be an actual challenge and not a challenge in quotation marks. Gold Mario is really cool, but everything else about this tour is nothing special. It was just another handful of city tracks. And so that was the final unique tour of Mario Kart Tour. So if Mario Kart Tour was gonna stop getting new content, then what was the game like during the 5th year, which is right now? Well, they're just repeating last year, like verbatim. Yeah, this killed pretty much all my motivation to play. I only came back to this game to see the new stuff, but now when I open up this game, I'll be questioning if I have dementia. So I stopped playing this game once the content was looping, only returning every now and then just to get characters that are on my bucket list. Which is a valid reason why you would still play this game even when there's nothing new. It means now you can actually catch up and complete your inventory without constantly lagging behind. That sounds fun and all, but I don't have the patience for that. So yeah, although the game isn't actually dead, it really feels like it wants to be put out of its misery. A good amount of players stopped playing it, the developers don't want to keep making it. In a sense, MKT is at its end. But you know the best part about no more new content to talk about? It means that the video is almost over. But don't leave, because I have some important stuff to say still. After going over everything inside and out of Mario Kart Tour from the past 4 years, I think I've made a solid verdict on this game. Is Mario Kart Tour a good game? Some of you might be disappointed to hear this, but I don't think it is. Now, judging by its more artistically driven aspects, it's really good. It showcases the series' most creative ideas, but this is not just a thing to admire. This is a game that you play. And as a game, Mario Kart Tour is fundamentally flawed, ethically gray, and has unnecessary complications. Of course, I enjoyed this game because it's not all bad. A bad game can have stuff you really like, just as much as a game you love has parts you absolutely cannot stand. But in Tour's case, that's because I went out of my way to not engage with parts of the game by creating my own do's and don'ts. And what does it say that in order for me to like this game, I had to play it in a specific way? Games should be enjoyable no matter how you choose to play it. I know other players have their own way of having fun with Tour, but in the case where that involves spending a lot of money, I can't say they'll be looking back at their financial decisions fondly. So, in short, if you asked me if I liked Mario Kart Tour, I would say yes. But if you asked me if Mario Kart Tour is a good game, I would say no. I chose Mario Kart Tour of all games to make a lengthy analysis of not just because I'm a Mario Kart fan, but because this game is a really interesting case study. It's an important example on how you shouldn't go about designing a game. You can provide all of these amazing settings and intuitive world building in your game, but if the game is designed poorly, it devalues all of that. At the end of the day, you are making a game, and if it's littered with logical and ethical flaws, it devalues all of its artistic liberties. The design always has to come before the concepts. It's a shame because Mario Kart Tour could have been exceptional. Nintendo for the most part doesn't tremendously fuck up when it comes to publishing games. Other studios are obsessed with being anti-consumer, like how Ubisoft wants players to not own the games they bought and everything needs to be accessed with a subscription or some shit. Nintendo, however, publishes the game, we buy the game, we own the game, and what a coincidence, the game isn't dog shit. Not trying to ride their meat or imply that they're a perfect company, just giving credit where credit is due. If Nintendo can be a positive image in the console space, they could do the same to the mobile space, which is struggling just as much. But instead it just embraced the current culture of mobile games by trying to get as much money out of the player as possible. Well, at least it doesn't have extremely out-of-pocket ads.
This is the last one, chat. Pee in his mouth.
What do you mean pee in his mouth? What do you mean pee in his mouth?
They did these tour showcases with Alakatu, who was voice acted and everything, and it was actually kind of wholesome. So this game is safe from the weird advertisements. Is what I would say, but I discovered guava juice. If you're on the fence, I can't really recommend it to you because it depends on your tolerance for the icky stuff. But I really want to mention that I'm not trying to say you shouldn't play or like this game. It's totally reasonable if you do. If you don't mind the gacha or microtransactions and solely focus on the game's many courses, character costumes, or intriguing competitive play, more power to you. Just know that it's also reasonable for those things to prevent people from enjoying the good stuff. It's healthy to like something while also keeping an open mind and accepting that not everyone does. Both love and hate for this game is valid. There's nothing wrong with having opinions, but there is something wrong with attacking people for having their opinions. I'm only bringing this up because this game is pretty controversial and has its passionate fanboys and haters, so I want none of that energy in my comments, please and thank you. I promise you will live a happy life if a stranger on the internet does not like the same thing you do. After Mario Kart Tour and the Booster Course Pass, I'm ready to move on from those emotional roller coasters to Mario Kart 9. Well, Tour is Mario Kart 9, apparently. This is also another big discussion on this game on whether or not it's considered Mario Kart 9, and like if it was, who gives a shit? When I say Mario Kart 9, I just mean the next traditional game. I hope it won't actually be called Mario Kart 9, or 10, or X. Don't call it X. Like, I get it, Roman numerals and shit, but please, don't call it X. Regardless, I'm feeling optimistic for the future of the series, to hopefully go back to tradition while adding an exciting new gimmick. Whatever awaits for the next game, breathe easy knowing it won't offer Diddy Kong for $40.
What the fuck? They're gay?